Rows of amazing GM dealership trade-in cars up for auction. This is the Walkaround. Today I'm out in Miller, South Dakota, and this is a dealership auction for the Staub's Motor Company. They sold Chevrolet, GMC, Pontiac, and Oldsmobile. This is a lot of the old vehicles that were either traded in. They also did towing, so you can see there's just a real mix of everything. Primarily the dealership was Oldsmobile. Just gonna take a quick walk through. The vehicles sell tomorrow, and so today be bidding on the parts. I'll show you one video of parts, tractors, signs, that type of thing, and then another video will be these cars, and then more of the gas pumps and some more parts. So we'll take a look around here. Got a 60 Oldsmobile Dynamic 88 four-door post, 46 Chevrolet, believe that's a 3/4 ton, would have been a pickup. It's had a flatbed on it. 1958 Pontiac Chieftain four-door post, 1954 Plymouth Savoy two-door post. Plymouth did not separate body styles into coupes and sedans like Chevrolet did. One two-door post body style. 61 Pontiac Catalina four-door post. Hudson, believe, is a 51. That's a pretty plain model. No side trim on it at all, except that little hash piece right there on the fender. 1958 Olds 98 four-door post. This one's 58 Chevy Bel Air, single tone black car. A lot of these were two-tone. Four-door hardtop's kind of a unique body style. Catalog name for it would have been the Sport Sedan. 62 Pontiac Catalina four-door. That one's hit something down low, didn't hurt the hood. 1964 Pontiac Bonneville four-door hardtop. 1965 Catalina four-door post. 1962 Mercury Monterey four-door post. It's a 53 or 54 DeSoto Fire Dome. It's got the grill and front bumper that all the customizer guys like for their Mercurys. And it should have a Hemi inside here, being a Fire Dome model. And there it is, the Hemi. Little 2-barrel carb on there, so it's no screamer. It's got the original generator on top there. Got the neat little call out for the V8 on the breather cap. The old Gamble's Varcon Deluxe battery in there. 62 Buick Electra 225 four-door hardtop. 63 Bel Air. This one they've swapped in a 64 steering column and two-door bench seat for some reason. Pretty nice, straight, rust-free car. Not 100% straight and rust free, but it's way better than the stuff you see down where I'm at. Neat part about this car is that it does have the two-tone roof, little paint divider at the base of the C-pillar. 1959 Mercury Montclair, four-door post. Catch these one row at a time. 1964 Catalina, four-door post. 1959 Pontiac Star Chief, four-door post. Little 63, 64 Rambler Ambassador. Vintage police car, super cool. We've got the 65 Dodge Coronet. My personal opinion is this is one of the ugliest cars Dodge ever made. There's just not a good angle on them. But the two pieces of this car that are pretty valuable, 65 only. It's got the rear axle without the 3/4 floating hubs. And then, maybe not terribly valuable, but it is 1 year only 65 steering column, because in 65 the government mandated that the PRNDL shift pattern be standardized. So all your 62, 3 and 4s, which is the earlier models of this generation, your Plymouth Furies, Dodge Coronets, that sort of thing, they all have a smooth column. So that 65 column, if you're going to put a later model transmission in your car with the later shift pattern, that's the column you gotta have. Then 1968 Oldsmobile Delta 88, four-door post. Just a good old bread and butter car. Two-tone blue with a white roof. Patina's baked most of the paint off of there. 1968 Fury 2. Tell it's a 68 because it's got the little round marker lights in the front fenders and the quarters. Curious which engine's in this one. 318. That's the LA style 318. These earlier ones were painted orange like that. And then they became Chrysler Corporate Blue later on. 59 Bel Air. Pretty straight, solid car. Grill's punched in. Got the crunch in the back there. Still though, that front clip, if a guy's rebuilding a two-door, pretty valuable. Just too much work to fix all that for a four-door Bel Air. Maybe if it was an Impala, especially if it was a four-door hardtop Impala or a two-door hardtop or a convertible Impala. But factor in the damage in the roof, and it's achieved parts car status, unfortunately. A lot of these, realistically, that's probably where they're at. They've just sat a long time. 68 Oldsmobile Delta 88. Twin to the blue car except for the paint color. And we've got the 75 Catalina. 76 they went to the square headlights. The 10 worms have really been munching on this one. Nasty old vinyl top just totally ate the roof. You can see the overhead retractor seat belt there. It's got the forest appearance package there on the front seat. Lichen decor group. 67 Grand Prix. It's a pretty interesting car. This could have a 428 in it. 67, 68 side button bucket seats. No tilt column. It's automatic. Gold interior over white with a black vinyl top. Interesting color combination. Not really my favorite, but if it had a nice black vinyl top on it, I'm sure it would really pop. So there's 4-barrel carburetor on there. Who knows if that old thing will still turn or not. It looks pretty good, but these cars have just sat so long, they're gonna be a lot of stuck motors out here, I'm gonna guess. That car would part out pretty good, I would think. 67 Oldsmobile, Delta 88. You can see the difference between the 67 and the 68. 67 has more bug-eyed appearance. A lot of people don't like them, but I think it's really neat. And 67, kind of a bit of a footnote in history, because it's the car that was driven off the Chappaquiddick Bridge. So there's a lot of newspaper pictures of 67 Oldsmobile floating around. 63 Dynamic 88. Neat car, but sadly these 63s probably really languish in obscurity, never be very collectible cars. I always like them because a friend of mine that I graduated high school with, he had a 63 convertible that was white, and he drove that thing a couple of years while we were in high school, so I always have really fond memories of that car. Then right here we've got a 69 Bonneville. These 69s had a rubber nose cone that always decays and falls apart. Engine would certainly be seized. If it was a 455, it'd probably be worth trying to pull out and rebuild. All these cars locked up with no keys, so that's a bit of a disappointment. There you can see the Stobbs badge. I believe they started out selling mainly Oldsmobiles, and then Chevrolet GMC came later, and Pontiac. 1991 Caprice. Sat long enough. It's a parts car, but look at the rust-free quarters on that thing. Come down the back of these. So we've got a 77, 78, 79 Bonneville. fairly unchanged in those 3 years, except for the grill. Pontiac was like the very, very last to hold on to fender skirts. They had them all the way through the 70s. My 81 still has them, and that was right about at the end. I think probably just something that the older crowd probably resonate with them. But Pontiac had definite performance image too. It's just really neat how they spanned the whole lineup. You know, 78, 79, you could get screaming Trans Am. 80, you could get the turbo Trans Am. And yet, if you were a really conservative buyer and wanted something with fender skirts, they'd sell you that too. There's its stablemate, 78, 79 Buick LeSabre. See the comparison and contrast between those two cars. There's 92 Park Avenue. Great durable cars. I always think of Tyler Hoover and his old man pants whenever I see one of these. Some late model wrecks that were tows. People just never picked up and they stayed here. This is a really odd one. This is an Eagle Premier. See the little badge there? I'm not even gonna try. That's Italian. Got the interesting little gauge pod there, very European. These cars, there was a lot of hype about them, but they were junk. I mean, I'm sure there were some out there that ran a lot of miles in spite of themselves, but you never ever see one still around. This was kind of a weird period of automotive history in there. You had Chrysler absorbing AMC, and then the Eagle nameplate was kind of transferred on these European hunks, and I don't know, they tried and they made it, but it's kind of a weird squiggly path that they took. Bonneville SSE, super neat cars. A friend of mine in high school had one of these, and I just remember buttons everywhere. 1980 should be Oldsmobile Cutlass Cruiser. This is a G-body wagon. 76, 77 Cutlass Supreme. This is the generation before, 73 to 7 body style. You can see the big change between those 2 years. Got the 70s look to the 80s box. 70 Catalina 400. Always think of the Ron Burgundy car. Anchorman. 72 or 3 Buick Electra. Should be a 73 because it's got that beginnings of the front impact rated bumper. 70 LeSabre 4-door. Now this old 71 Catalina, it's kind of a unique old car. 400. First year of that body style. Sat around long enough, it's strictly parts. 71 has that unique ventilated trunk lid. Staub's car. '62 Star Chief wrecked. Gave up its engine for another vehicle. 50 and 51 bullet nose Studebakers. I can never tell these two apart. This one has the grills with the straight tops, and then they did another where the grills had a relief indentation in them. It's got the house paint patina. '63 Biscayne, factory black. This is one of my favorite cars out here. I'm just a sucker for factory black. So the Biscayne has the trim up high, and you can see the trim down low is the Bel Air. The Impala also had the trim down low, but it had a slot in there that said Impala. So there's your difference. 63 Bel Air, 63 Biscayne, red interior and a black car. Probably just about the most attractive color combination you could order. And they were an economy-minded buyer because they ordered the straight six. 1956 Oldsmobile. Parts car. Customizer guys really like those headlight brows for the front fenders. Those are totally complete. 64 Olds Dynamic 88 wagon. This is a pretty neat car. Gotta love the old wagons. That one's got the steps on the rear bumpers. Was told that means it's a 9-passenger because that's how the passengers stepped up to get in. 49 or 50 Chevrolet with the mangled Buick hood. Little two-door post. 49er. 1962 Oldsmobile Super 88. And this is a 1965 Oldsmobile 98. (1952) 3-4 Packard. Each year of those grills is different. 1954 Ford Ranch Wagon. 54 was the first year of the Y block, which it has. Pretty plain car. You see some pinholes popping, but that thing's really pretty solid and straight. 63 Tempest, 1-year body style. Heavily disguised 62, but they basically reskinned the whole car. 326 V8 in that. Pontiac with their A-body, they did a lot of transitional changes every year, basically from the beginning, you know, then 61, 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, 7 to 8 to 9. Every year that they made changes, they were constantly improving these cars. And if you traded up, you definitely were getting value each year that you traded up. This is a super neat one. 60 Olds 98 two-door hardtop. The 98 and the 88 weren't all that terribly different in these years. Some years they're very different, like the body styles and the whole body shell are totally different line, you know, all the parts, the front clip, everything is different. And then other years they're just very indistinguishable. And that carried on into the 70s, the 80s, even to the front wheel drive cars. They did that. (1953) Buick Special, got the 3 portholes. 1956 Oldsmobile, 4-door post. Very, very attractive colors on that car. 66 Impala, 4-door hardtop. Crying shame that that thing's not a 67, because it would have a lot of collector value to the supernatural crowd. Kind of banged up. 61 Olds Dynamic 88. Will we make it? Looks like they'll make it. This is a 70 Olds Delta 88. Neat car, I like them. Just not a lot of collector interest. 62 Olds Dynamic 88, 4-door post. While he's backing around there, I'm gonna catch the tail of the 60 Olds. See the 4-door there, and that 2-door. Just got really neat spaceship look to it. Pretty cool rig. Battery's about done. Shot around all day, but I'll catch everything I can. Try and hit the older stuff first and go from there. This is a 62 C10 long bed. Kind of banged up, but they do make a good share of repro parts for these trucks. So if somebody's dedicated, and especially if you want to leave the patina, if you're not doing a full restoration all the way, that thing's realistically savable truck. And row of a lot of later model tows. They just sat around. Okay, so here's what the 72 Buicks look like. This is a Buick Centurion. Or is that a 73? I don't know. They'll let me know in the comments. 71, 2, and 3 Buicks are just super hard for me to tell apart. And this old thing, 66 Olds Dynamic 88. I've got one of these. This identical car, actually. Then 65 Delta 88. Then we've got the 58 Chevy. There's a Bel Air 4-door post. Showed that 4-door hardtop over on the other side. And there's really very little difference other than the obvious center pillar. On that hardtop, they had a little bit of ribbed chrome molding there. But the roof line looked very, very similar. 57 Oldsmobile, kind of parted out. So here's an interesting one. This is a vintage Packard demo derby car. You can see they trim the bumpers so they don't get caught. It's an interesting relic. You can see they're painted on the doors. It says Staub's Oil Company. Just pretty crudely built car. This is like the very, very beginning of derbying. It doesn't even look like they pinned the doors shut. The sport's come long, long way since then. 60 Pontiac, Catalina, 4-door hardtop. Somebody's parted on that one. Pretty neat. 58 Olds, 88. Then your Toronados here. You can see the owner probably obviously put these away for future collector interest, but you know, realistically these have a hard time cracking 10 grand. They're interesting, but there's just not a lot of people beating down the doors for front wheel drive cars. The sad thing is, had they picked out a couple 75, 76 Olds custom cruiser clamshell wagons and put them away and kept them in this condition, they'd probably be bringing 30 or 40 grand. But that's the interesting and unique part of this hobby, is that you just don't see the future till you're there, and they put away what they thought was a unique collector car, and yeah, they're just kind of soft. Not that they aren't unique. I mean, look at that cool door handle. I think that came out on like the 69 Grand Prix maybe. I mean, that interior, it's a beautiful car. It really pops. 71,000 miles on it. Silver and burgundy, very attractive colors. Then this gold one, it says one of my favorite 70s Oldsmobile interiors. The stripes. You could get the stripes, I want to say, on just about every model, all the way down to the Cutlass. Just more unique relics of our country's transportation history. Catch a couple more of the kind of interesting ones here. This is a 73 Chevrolet C10. This is two-tone truck, yellow ochre. This one has a pretty rare factory option on it. Pretty standard truck overall, 350, 4-barrel, automatic, AC, manual brakes, straight steering column, no tilt. We come around the back and it is wood bed floor. This is a pretty uncommon order, but a lot of farmers like these because they would put their stock racks in and the wood gave the critters' feet traction. Cows, sheep, pigs, whatever they were hauling, they would slide around on the metal bed floors because they were slick. And so you see a lot of guys in the farm country would order these old trucks with wood bed floors in them. It's kind of a neat vestigial tale. They didn't keep them around real long in this series. I think by 77 or so maybe they were gone. Few other unique ones in the row. Old Chevy Celebrity station wagon's kind of cool. Those front wheel drive cars, believe it or not, they're gaining collector value. Don't see a lot of them around anymore. Four-wheel drive Blazer. Another Buick Century or Chevy Celebrity. It's hard to tell with the grill knocked out. Grand Marquis, about an 85. 97 Grand Am. This Cutlass Sierra Coupe is interesting because it is the holiday model. So you got the vinyl top and I think just a little more deluxe interior. It's got the 60-40 split bench. Next to it is the Ford Taurus, 1992, best-selling car in America. Shortly after that, it was overtaken by the Toyota Camry. 1984-85 Buick LeSabre. Kind of a neat car, gray with a charcoal vinyl top on it. Astrovans, in my opinion, they'll be one of the next up-and-coming collectibles. See, the boogie vans are already here, and Astro's just next on the chart. See people getting into the rad 80s and 90s, and that one's already got the rad stripes on the side, so it's ready to go. Next to it, this is a Pontiac 6000. This is not your average 6000 because it is equipped with diesel engine. And that hood's lodged shut from the rack. It's actually an aluminum hood, which is kind of odd. Surely I can get that thing open. There we go. So there it is. Get your do not use starting fluid decal. You can see got the green dipstick. A few other visual indicators, but that is the diesel engine. And it is a 4.3. Believe you could also get these in the Buick Century. Not sure if the Celebrity was ever optioned with the diesel or not. Just an interesting old relic of its time. 90s Caravan, good bread and butter vehicle. Another Taurus. And then we've got the Pontiac Phoenix. This is the X-Body. These came out in 1980. This one's a little later because it's fuel injection. I don't think that was till maybe 85 or 6 or so. It's not real certain on that. But this was a companion car to the Chevy Citation, which you can see over there. This was the car that GM brought out front-wheel drive on this platform, and they had a lot of teething problems. There was a lot of stuff that they had to work through, a lot of warranty work. I don't know about recalls. Recalls weren't as big of a thing back then as they are now, but they really took a lot of pains to proof these and improve them as they went along. And then when they did bring out this A-body, like the 6000, the Celebrity, the old Sierra, Buick Century, they had really improved. They took all the lessons that they had learned over on the X-body. Citation in Phoenix, Omega, and they put them into the A body and made really good car, and front wheel drive took off. This is the Buick Skylark. That's a Chevy Nova body, 75 through 79. Probably has a 3.8 V6, most of them did. Got a burned up Buick Century. Looks like that one was rolled and skidded. Caught fire. Citation. Kind of a neat looking car with the red. That red color that they had really pops. My uncle had Citations and he hated them, but he kept buying them. That was in the 90s. So by the time the 90s rolled around, basically all the teething problems on each particular vehicle had been solved, and then by that point, you're just fighting age and decay. A lot of other sad stories out here. There's a rolled Blazer, more rolled Junkers. Most of these Chevy trucks are four-wheel drive. That was kind of a thing out here. There's a stripped out Monte Carlo shell. Bench seat, no T-tops, pretty basic car. Old Suburban four-wheel drive. Then over here, there's a couple, about a 52 or 3 International farm truck. It's got kind of a neat look to it. Then the 1951, 2, 3, somewhere in there, GMC. It's a fuel truck. Staub's Motor Company actually started, at the beginning, he was a fuel delivery guy, sold bulk oils. Up here, it's cold country, so they sold a lot of bulk heating oil that people would heat their houses with. And then, of course, your farm diesel and gasoline. So this is one of the earlier trucks that he used. They told me, I talked to the family a little bit this morning, and they said he hustled hard. He had a mail route, and then when he went to start the dealership, he actually would go all through town, Miller, South Dakota, and he would wash people's windshields on Main Street, and then he would leave a little card under the windshield wiper, and that was how he built his business. Chevrolet tilt cab. That's a pretty neat truck. Big gross weight on that one. It's got the tandems. That's probably one of the stoutest spec'd ones of them you could buy. Then this old Ford C-Series. These came out in 58. They built them into the late 80s. I think 90 was the very last year you could get them. So to tell them apart, you can see this is like the 68 to 72 style marker light. This one's a little bit heavier weight rating because it's the C900. Then over here, you've got the Dodge fuel truck. This was another one of his. So the branding changed a couple times. They were originally Conoco. I think they could have been Skelly before that. And then I think they finished as a Sinclair. The brothers were kind of getting some age on them, and the memories aren't so sharp. So I didn't really want to push them too hard and be disrespectful as I was talking to them, but I do like to get as much information about this old stuff as I can. And that old Sinclair fuel truck. Then this is a Rio, I believe this model's the Gold Comet. Really, really neat truck. This is probably early 50s. One of the neatest styling of these old trucks that they built. That cab, I think, is borrowed from a medium-duty International Harvester. Then this is another later Dodge. So this is like a 69 or 70. So it's after the Sinclair, if it even was an actual Staub's truck. They may have got it from somewhere else. It's got Kerr McGee branding. The brothers said they did have a station in town. A lot of neat old history out here. This is gonna be where I end the video. So definitely come back and check out the next one after this. Is gonna show some auction footage. Did several walkarounds. When there's this much stuff out here at one of these places, it just really takes a lot of time to walk over it all and document it and show what's here. And appreciate everybody sticking around. Come back and see what these old rigs and these old relics sold for.